we have a stream? Hey, we're live.
We are live.
All right. Shouldn't say all those things I was saying then.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Hang on, I'm going to put the stream URL in the chat so that you can share it if you'd like to. Or watch it, or whatever you want to do.
Hey, you know what starts today? What came out today?
What came out today?
Star Trek Picard.
Yes, and I still don't have CBS All Access.
I do.
I put the stream URL in the chat for you. I'm going to go share it on our Slack channel that no one can join because I still didn't fix that join link. Okay, folks, if you're watching this, we're live for the first time in a while.
Greetings.
Greetings. All right, I'm going to hit this intro music, and then we're going to do a podcast. What do you think?
That sounds like fun.
That sounds like... Okay, here we go.
News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Sysadmin podcast.
Welcome to the show, folks. I hope you enjoy our live stream. It took us quite a bit to get here, simply because Jason's computer is stupid. Or his browser is stupid.
I don't know.
One or the other.
You youngins and your fancy HTML5 garbage.
Yeah, well, you know, I wanted to do live streams again. I wanted to do it easily.
Back in my day, Zoom was just fine.
So I'm going to say that this was easy for me. It just wasn't easy for you. But technology is never easy for you when it comes to plugging in that stupid microphone.
I don't know why.
I don't know. It's just you.
USB. I'm not doing anything
just
fancy.
You. It's just you. Anyway, welcome to the show, folks. And I just realized that in all the rush to get the show ready, I'm still wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. Not one of my cool techie shirts or an Iron Sysadmin shirt or anything. So Mickey Mouse it is tonight.
Okay. Well, you lose your geek cred.
Yep. I don't know. Some geeks like the mouse. Just saying. So anyway, right. Welcome to the show. I'm joined, as you may have noticed, by Jason and no other co-hosts. We don't have any guests tonight. We're just going to do it like we used to.
Back in the day?
Back in the day. Except with better audio quality and less hiccups. And what? Where did you go? Why did you drop out of the stream? What did you do?
I pushed a button and it disappeared. I don't know.
Why did you push the button?
It was there.
It's going to be a train wreck tonight, folks. It's that kind of night.
I've only just started drinking.
All right, so tonight we're rehashing a topic we've kind of covered in the past. And this is, last night I was at a Red Hat users group, just as part of working at Red Hat. Was at the office in New York yesterday, and the user group meets once a month, and we happened to be there. And there was a guy who presented on this like awesome super micro machine that he built. And yes, someone did ask him if he was worried about those the grain of rice miniature computer that was spying on all of his data, and everybody laughed. Remember super micro? You remember that?
Yes. Yeah, that wonderful article.
Yeah,
yep,
right. The thing that was never proven, and no one ever actually had any proof to show what was going on. Anyway, the point is, he was running this thing. It was a pretty massive machine. He had recently purchased it. It's an AMD. What do they call it? EPIC processor. It's like a new CPU from AMD, which is apparently not affected by any of these side channel attacks, and that was the reason that he was replacing his machine. It was because he had this beefy Xeon machine that lost like 40% of its resources due to the side channel mitigations. And he was very disappointed by that. And the reason he runs this thing is not because he's running some business or because he's, making a bunch of money off of it. he hosts a ton of services for him and his family, like to the tune of 141 VMs. So this is a pretty beefy machine, if you could guess. It had like half a terabyte of memory and 64 cores, if I remember correctly. Big machine, and he runs it in a Colo. So it got me thinking about, I used to host all my stuff here at the house, and I know you still host your stuff at home, right? You haven't moved it off to something? It's right over there. Is that what's making the noise in the mic?
Probably.
Which, by the way, is gone now since you switched to Chrome.
I hate Chrome.
So I don't know what you were doing in Firefox, but all of a sudden it's better. Anyway, so it got me thinking, sort of rehashing, as I've talked about on the show. I used to run everything out of my house, and slowly but surely over the last year, I've tried to sort of simplify some of that so that I don't have as much to deal with here at home when I'm off the clock. But seeing his talk sort of reminded me how much I really did enjoy running all those services. So I thought we would just talk tonight about the differences between self-hosting, cloud hosting, and Colo hosting. And when I say cloud hosting, I'm going to talk a little bit about both like infrastructure as a service style hosting, like EC2 or DigitalOcean, and like application hosting, like software as a service. So I figure we'll just chat about these things. I got a couple points laid out. You and I both have a bunch of experience in all of these, and we'll just kind of go from there. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good.
Good. All right. So, first bullet point I got here is control, because this is really one of the main reasons why you would, or one of the main criteria as to how you would choose where and how you want to host your services, right? So if you're hosting out of your basement, you have 100% full control over every little piece of that thing you're running, all the way until it hits your cable modem or whatever it is you use to get to the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, right up till you hit that network.
Yes.
And then you're, depending on where you are, your control, well, you're not going to have any control over your ISP, but depending on where you are, that could be good or bad.
Right. So that's sort of one of the points, right? Most ISPs on residential service will flat out not allow you to run services on your internet connection. Some will, most of them block it. Most of them flat out put you behind NAT or something that people can't reach you, right?
Yep.
So you have to consider that if you're going to host from home. You either need to do things to work around the things they have put in place to safeguard you from people accessing your machines, which, by the way, is kind of a valid reason for why they do this kind of stuff. They don't want people to reach their end user machines because that's how things like worms propagate. Right.
So I'm cool with that, right up to the point where you have a user who says, "Hey, I'm not dumb. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Please open that." And they say no.
They say no.
Then I've got a problem.
And they say no because either they claim that, they don't know if you're going to do that, or it's really more like because they sell a separate level of internet service that allows you to do that.
Yeah.
Now, some companies like, say, Verizon DSL, at least at the time when I looked at it, flat out didn't offer hosting service or a service that you can host from your house. Right. Their commercial service was basically a different level of service. It was a different, what's the word I'm looking for? Service level agreement, right? Where you get faster support and you get different bandwidth packages, but it's not meant for hosting. Where a lot of cable providers usually have a hosting solution where you can open up ports to the world and people can access your stuff. So you get about as much control as you could expect, because even if you're in a data center, right, once you hit the internet, you are really at the mercy of your internet service provider, right? Obviously, high dollar commercial service is different. If you're doing like backbone to some core provider or whatever. So what if you decide to go to a Colo? Really, hosting at home and hosting in a Colo are very similar from a control level, with the exception of the fact that your machine that you have most control over is physically not located near you. It's in some data center somewhere, which you may or may not be able to actually walk into. So the level of control you have is scaled back just a tad, because either you have to drive somewhere and unlock a cabinet and, go in and deal with your hardware, or you have to call them up and they have a supposedly intelligent person go in and deal with your machine. Like, I have to go hit the power button or the reset button or whatever.
And Colo is not cheap anymore.
No, this guy claimed he was getting Colo for $150 a month, which seemed low to me.
One server?
Yeah, one machine. It was 2U.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to me, that's expensive.
Is it? When I looked at Colo for the web host that we ran, now we were looking at more than just a 2U slot. It was like 8U or something. We're looking at like $4,000.
Yeah,
which was a no-go, complete non-starter. We couldn't afford that for a small business. So, infrastructure as a service, you lose control of the hardware, like the actual physical hardware, but you still have full control over your VMs, or mostly full control over your VMs. You can start and stop them. You can get a console. You can do all kinds of craziness. Sometimes you can even fiddle with hardware, though most of the time, like virtual hardware, though most of the time they mask that away from you because they don't really want you to be doing that.
Right.
But you still get full control of the operating system inside of your VMs, which is, maybe that's, I'd say for a lot of use cases, that's actually all you really need. Right?
Yeah, agreed.
And then there's software as a service. And when I say software as a service, if you're unfamiliar with these terms, I don't know how you couldn't be at this point, but I'm sure there's some viewers that maybe aren't familiar with it. Software as a service is things like Gmail and Google Drive and Office 365. These are things where you pay a monthly subscription fee to use an application. That application might do something like run WordPress for you or run a word processor for you, right? There's any number of things. Hosting your WordPress site on, WordPress.com that does this, that's software as a service because you have no direct access to the shell.
Right.
And as you'd expect, you get little to no control over that. You get control over the application in some cases, but you like Google Docs, for example.
You get control over the running application.
Right. So Google Docs, for example, you get almost no control. What Google provides you is a word processor that you can do things in. You can't go configure that word processor. You can't change anything about it. You can't change how it's hosted or run. Where it's something like, say, WordPress, like my other example, you get full control over configuring that website. But beyond that, beyond what WordPress lets you change, nothing. You can't touch it. So you still have some control depending on the application. But you don't get control to the level that you would if you had shell access or if you ran the thing in your basement.
Right.
So the next point I got here is convenience. And this is kind of subjective, right? You have to think about what angle you're looking at. So hosting in your house, convenience, from my perspective, is convenience of access. Like, can I walk in and see the thing and touch it and use it? But it's not convenient for much of the other things that you're going to have to, the care and feeding and whatnot. You have to power it. You have to cool it. It's going to be making noise. Just in general, it's kind of an inconvenience. You agree?
Yeah. Especially when you have like power outages or internet outages, right, that sort of thing. Like you're sort of at the mercy of the upstream providers in those cases, but it's your own damn fault.
Sure. But if something goes down, and we'll touch this a little more in a bit, but if something goes down, you're pretty much dependent on yourself, and that's pretty inconvenient. It's very convenient to say, like, oh, Google Docs is down. That's Google's problem. I'll just come back in half an hour.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You don't have to do anything, but it's not convenient.
Well, right. So all right. Again, this is what I mean by it's about perspective. It's inconvenient that it's broken, but it's convenient that you don't have to touch it to fix it.
Right.
So Colo and infrastructure as a service kind of have a very similar level of convenience here, I think, anyway. And correct me if you think I'm wrong.
Well, Colo, you still have the hardware control. So, I mean, if the hard drive goes bad in your server and it's in a Colo, you get in your car, you're driving.
Yeah. So that's a little less convenient.
Right. Whereas infrastructure as a service is, if the hard drive goes in your VM, you don't even know. It just...
Yeah, right. If the underlying hardware fails, it generally either self-heals or there's a brief outage and it comes back.
Right.
So yeah, but from a physical intervention, no, I guess no, never mind. I'm killing my own point here. So software as a service, we'll just move on. Software as a service can be very convenient from the I don't have to configure or secure or install or operate this thing. All I have to do is log in and use it. But the loss of that low-level control can be inconvenient when you run into something that's not working the way you want it to, right?
Yeah, you should have called this responsibility.
Maybe responsibility. That could be the points I'm hitting here. So, but yeah, it can be inconvenient in the fact that you don't have the control to make changes where you may want to. You know, if you want that application to work differently in a way that's not an option that's configurable, then you're stuck. You don't really you can't change it. But it's ridiculously convenient for the fact that you just kind of log in and it works if you're working within the box they've defined.
Right.
Now, the next point that I have here is really sort of what did it for me when I was running things at home. And this is like the passion versus sort of thrill or excitement that you get out of actually running your own services. And this is a thing that's going to be different for everybody, right? Because personally, I had a certain amount of pride associated with running services in my basement that were pretty darn reliable, right?
Yep.
And that's because I like that kind of thing, right? So running it out of your home, if you're passionate about either doing it yourself or the privacy level or just the sheer fact that you have the skill to be able to do it, maybe it's a bragging rights thing, whatever, it can certainly be a thrill to say, I run that thing at home and it works just as well and just as reliably as the big providers, right? That can also get expensive. And we didn't touch expense in all this. Maybe we'll just have to wing that one. I didn't make a bullet point for that. But expense is a big deal. With a Colo, you really get a similar feeling, right? The only difference is that you're not responsible for power cooling and, like, say, backup power and whatnot. But really, you're still running the application. You're still doing most of it yourself. The thing you don't have to worry about anymore is, like, the physical layer. There's someone there running a professional data center or hopefully professional data center that's keeping your machine up and running. But that's still, you're still running, you know, your applications, your architecture, and that's kind of fun, right? With infrastructure as a service, again, you can still architect and design your own applications, which is cool, right? And this might be a great option for someone who doesn't want to have to deal with hardware, but still wants to be able to really do it themselves, or mostly themselves, and not have to worry about having a rack in their basement and, you know, a natural gas powered generator outside to keep their services up and running. Right?
What if I want a natural gas powered generator outside?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do, and if you do, then great.
Cool, because that was the plan.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I looked into it when I had that web host running here. I looked into a natural gas power generator, and it's a couple grand, but it's not like tens of thousands. I think we were looking at it was like 3 or 4K, I think.
I can't do natural gas here, but yeah, I mean, generator in general.
Well, you could power it off of coal. You have all that coal left over, don't you?
No, that's gone. That's gone. Screw that. Although my buddy pointed out to me that my entire problem was that I was not using clean coal. If I would have used clean coal, it wouldn't have been an issue.
Clean coal would have been so much better.
Yeah.
Why didn't you think of that?
I don't know. So I just ripped it out and got rid of it. Put something else in.
That's good. Good for you. And then made your kid shovel all the coal out.
Yep.
Did he like fall and slice his hand open or something?
Yep.
This is what you get.
Now he lives in West Virginia and teaches snowboarding on a mountain.
I heard about that from your other son, who did not fall and cut himself because he was in Louisville at the time.
Yes.
Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
That's what I do.
So, software as a service. I really couldn't find a way that this could possibly be exciting. Maybe that's just because of my perspective on things. But you're basically dealing with a canned solution that somebody else wrote and somebody else manages.
Yeah, I don't think there's much excitement there to be there. I mean, it's like, I've got
you're
Google Docs.
You're solving whatever problem you had, So maybe that's a sense of accomplishment, but you're doing it by just forking money over to somebody else.
Again, it depends on who you are. So like I want to run my own services, damn it, and I want to,
right.
do all that cool stuff. Whereas, my father or my mother probably has no interest whatsoever in really caring, other than she wants to push a button and get a document,
right,
and then write it and to save it and not have to worry about it.
Right. Right. And that's part of what drove me to not worry so much about running stuff in my house anymore, because I was the only one that cared. Nobody else in the household cared that our documents on Nextcloud were hosted here in our basement, and nobody else was able to get their hands on them. They just didn't care. They wanted it to work. And unfortunately, to get it to work to a level where they weren't like frustrated with it, Google Drive was the answer. Nextcloud was just never quite there. Like, it was okay. I was able to use it, but, the average folks who just want it to work always found the flaws in it. So
just make it work.
Just make it work. Let's see. Then we were, uptime and on call. And this was really the big thing for me that just drove the whole thing home, and the whole reason that I decided to move a bunch of my stuff off-prem, not in my house anymore. And that's because I was coming home from work at night, and I was basically never off the job, right? So I would come home from a day of sysadminning, and then, the Plex server was down, or the Wi-Fi wasn't working right, or name anything, right, that I was hosting here. The email server was acting funny, right? Why doesn't my mail come through? Someone sent me a message and it got blocked by your spam filter. And I was doing it pretty much 24/7, because there was never a point, other than when the family was asleep, that there wasn't something that they depended on me to do. So that's a bit tiring. Now, in the case of the gentleman who spoke at the Red Hat users group last night, he's got I think he said about a dozen family members using this thing. It's not just his household. It's like him and his brother and his brother's households. And they're all using this. And it's basically a privacy thing. They want to make sure that their data is where they can touch it and see it.
What's he trying to hide?
Right. I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this afterward. The fellow was Asian. So I don't know if it was like a paranoia from Asian governments, like the Chinese government, that drove him to this. Because they are kind of an evil entity when you look at them, the Chinese government.
I'm not touching any of that.
Yeah, right. I mean, just look like being a citizen in China doesn't feel like it's a very happy private thing, right? So that I don't know if that's what drove it. The guy's doing some cool work, and it motivated me to speak about it. But
I like having my stuff here too, so
Yeah, right. I mean, some people are just a little paranoid when it comes to where their data is. I guess I kind of give up on that.
Look at this massive bookcase and all this stuff I put up here just to throw everybody off about my entire life.
Right. Okay. That's all a sham, is that it? You don't even like the Giants?
This isn't even my house.
It's not. Oh, it's all a set.
Yes.
So if you're in a colo, some of that responsibility gets put onto the people who run the colo, for actual physical security and hardware and power and cooling, as we mentioned a few times already. They may offer something like, I wrote backup here not as backup like data backup, but backup like I'm busy and there's no one else to help.
Some colos, right. Some colos will swap disks for you, or do basic hardware troubleshooting, that sort of stuff. So infrastructure as a service, it's basically you're responsible for what's on your VM, like the management of your VM and down, or I should say further up the stack, not down the stack. Everything beneath that is completely out of your hands. You couldn't touch it if you wanted to. And that's all 100%, my EC2 instances aren't running properly because of some huge outage in EC2. I just have to wait for Amazon to fix it, or I need to report it as a problem. All my VMs slowed down because of speculative execution.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, software as a service. You wrote the notes. You're screwed. Good luck. And that's a good summary. It's
Yeah.
it's like when you go to turn on the TV and the cable's out. All you can do is call the cable company and say, "Hey, my cable's out," and wait for them to send a truck out to find the break in the line and fix it for you.
Great example. Great example was yesterday.
Yeah.
I had a client who contacted me and said, "Our drive file stream is telling me that I don't have permissions to that to use it anymore." And I looked at it and I went, "That's weird." So I went in and I looked, and like, there's really, I mean, you're set up to use Google Drive. I don't see anything about being able to disable that. It turns out Google had an outage. And the answer very simply was tough. You just kind of have to wait till it's fixed.
No. Google doesn't have outages.
I know.
It's never. Trooper Ish says the shelves are a great smokescreen, by the way.
You're missing the opportunity to click the thing to show it on the screen.
All right, here we can do this now with StreamYard. Ta-da! Trooper Ish's comment shows up in the stream now, so now we can answer it as it appeared.
I want
What?
his avatar to be larger so that I can read what it says.
Oh, it's a disc and a something.
Disc and something chatting.
Anyway,
Okay, so all right, we're gonna take that back off now. Awesome features in this software as a service application that we're using.
okay. So the YouTube
What?
chat just vanished for me. So anyway,
What? See, I told you, awesome features. It's gone.
I don't
It's
even
literally
I don't
gone.
even. Yep, I have private chat left over, and that's it. Oh well.
That's fun.
Anyway, moving right along.
You don't have the comments tab anymore. We can't win. We just can't. We can't win. So that's all the bullet points I had. I figure we can simply chat a bit about Colo versus whatever, if you'd like.
It's
I know
back.
it came back. Oh,
It came
good.
back.
Just like that.
Yes, Trooperish, you're internet famous now.
Internet famous.
Yeah. So I like coloing my stuff in my house right up until right up until the power goes out, and then it works okay for a little while, except that my UPS doesn't seem to like my generator at the moment. So I've got work
I had
to do.
that. I had that same problem. So Trooper says that it's a floppy diskette saying "I'm your father" and the USB stick saying "No."
Yes. Excellent.
If you're watching the stream, you can see it highlighted. Okay, that's enough of that. Fun little tools, fun little toys. So,
Yes. SaaS services.
yes, SaaS
Awesome.
services. They're awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I dislike running my own services. The problem was simply a matter of time, right? I'm the only person in my household, and I guess you're not quite in the same boat because you have a son who's interested in this stuff. I don't know if he actually helps you with any of it or not, but
Not yet.
I'm the only.
I run
I'm
blogs
the-
for him. That's it.
I'm the only one in the household who has really like any interest in running it here. And I'm the only one who has the skills to make it work. So if I'm traveling and something goes down, the best I could expect to have my wife or even my kids do would be to go to the basement and hit the reset button, right? Because not that they wouldn't try, but they just don't have the skill set, right? So it really got to the point where it was almost like an extra level of stress. I don't know if you don't really feel that. I guess it depends what you're running, right?
Yeah, not usually. I mean, I have I have email that runs for myself and some other people, and I mean, I've got a Plex server that runs internally. My big thing, I pay for a commercial connection for. At this point, it's basically to run this. Whereas if I didn't have the commercial connection, I could pay the same amount and get, I believe, 10 times the bandwidth.
Yep.
Which would be nice.
That is the way they price it.
Which would be nice, but then I have to find some place to run all this. And
Right.
given what I'm running and the amount of storage, I think it's actually cheaper for me to run it at home.
Yeah.
So if I were to put this in like AWS, I might go broke.
Yeah, I mean that's another good point, right? So running what I ran as that side business, the web host, if I were to put all that into EC2 or something, it would have been, it wouldn't have worked out financially because the amount we were charging customers versus the amount that we were going to have to pay Amazon to run the stuff there, it wouldn't have been, we would have been in the negative every month.
Right.
Whereas running at home, we lost out on some of the benefits of redundancy because I don't have a backup generator that could have powered it. I don't have redundant internet feeds. I don't have any of the stuff that makes an enterprise data center. So we had outages, right? Luckily, the customers we had weren't like high dollar, like, oh my God, my stuff's down, I'm bleeding money sort of customers. And it wasn't a problem. But yeah, so if I were to invest all of that into my home, then it probably would have been cheaper to go to Amazon. In fact, it worked out cheaper to once I got rid of all of the web host stuff and the business was closed up and we didn't have 4 servers in the basement anymore. And I just had my machine, my web server essentially to deal with. And I put that on DigitalOcean. It is considerably cheaper than it ever could have been here at home. Just the power to run that server is more than what I'm paying to DigitalOcean, which is like $25 a month. Right. So yeah, that's cost-wise. Now, like I said, I haven't looked at Colo prices recently. It could be that was a very viable option. It could have been that I could have.
You have a visitor. Turn around.
Do I? Hi. Now, it could be that now she's making faces back there.
She is.
Live on YouTube.
Excellent.
Anyway.
It's bedtime.
Yeah, right. Not quite. Anyway, where was I? Oh, cost-wise. All right, I haven't looked into Colo prices lately. If the number that he threw around was correct, if I could have condensed all my stuff into a single machine and put it in a Colo, it might have been cheaper. If in the web host scenario, that is. It certainly would have been cheaper than AWS.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I could do Colo for the same cost that I'm paying now for bandwidth and hosting it here, maybe. But if something happens, it's right here. I just walk over and take care of it.
I want to say I was paying like $70 or $80 just for the internet connection. I forget what speed package I was on that you might be able to compare it to what you're paying, but it was. I know at one point it was 65 or something. And then I think we upped it because it wasn't quite enough, but it never hit 100. It was never over 100. But again, it was for like 5 meg, not or 50 meg, maybe 50 meg.
I just recently upgraded from 25 meg to 100 meg, and my monthly cost went down.
Hey, that's a win.
Really weird.
That's a win.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because we both know the company, and I don't.
Yeah, right. They don't like losing money.
And I got a shiny new cable modem because apparently the cable modem that I just got 2 years ago is like ancient and we don't use those anymore. And, we got rid of those. And I'm like, they're brand new.
Same thing happened to me when I switched from commercial to residential. I'm like, so I can use my old cable modem, right? Oh, yeah, totally. Well, when the installer showed up, he's like, no, you can't use that. What do you mean I can't use that? You can't use that. It's a commercial modem.
Yeah.
What? Like the commercial modem is somehow feature different than a normal cable modem.
I got this big, huge story about how they had to change cable modems because they've standardized on the cable modem that has the RJ11 port so that they can offer me phone service. And I have to have that one, and we don't use any other ones anymore.
Yeah.
This cable modem there's a glaring problem with it. It has no RJ11 port. There's no backup battery.
Nice. Nice.
What is this thing? It's in Technicolor though. That's the same modem I've got then. The modem is called a Technicolor.
Technicolor. I never heard of the brand. When he pulled it out, I'm like, Technicolor? Really? It's called Technicolor? It's not like Motorola or some other trusted communication vendor, it's Technicolor.
It's probably the same modem that you have. So
Yeah.
you know,
Oh no, it probably is.
I have a residential modem. I'm going to complain now.
Mine also does not have an RJ11 port.
No. Yeah, he mentioned that. I sort of laughed at him. Like, yeah, that's not a thing that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Ever.
So anyway. Right.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. So I don't know if I have any hard numbers for cost. I can say that hosting at home feels cheaper than just about every other option, but there's all kinds of things to take into consideration, like your own time, for example. I don't know about you, but my hourly wage has gone up and up and up as I've gotten older and more gray-bearded. So when you try to take that into consideration, which is a hard thing to do, especially if it's a thing you enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I don't consider the work I do on my Jeep, for example, a waste of money or a waste of my time because I enjoy doing it.
Right.
Right. So.
Right. I mean, likewise, I'm in the same boat, and you know, I'm about to, you know, now that the shelves are done, I've got, you know, a couple more pieces that I want to put in behind where the computer setup is, so that I can move all of the, you know, the cable modem and the wireless and everything, so that it's all hidden behind there, and sort of, you know, lay out the desk and kind of streamline things here. So it's fun and I enjoy it, so I'm going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
plan.
It seems like everybody is more interested in putting a dollar per hour on their time and completely removing enjoyment or emotion from any situation.
Yeah, well, I enjoy this, so I will continue to do it. Now, I mean, there's hidden costs. There's heating and cooling. There's power.
Yeah.
You know, there's the space that it takes up, and by that I mean, most people don't have these things sitting in their living room. My wife would probably kill me in my sleep. She probably wouldn't wait for me to sleep. She'd probably just kill me.
She would just kill you and sacrifice you on top of the server.
She'd probably kill me with the server.
Beat you with it.
But yeah, I mean, you know, these are the machine I was able to build is pretty condensed and it's relatively quiet.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I'll say that it's quieter than any machine I've ever run, because if any server I've ever run was sitting next to me right now, I would have to mute every time I'm not speaking, because it would just be a vacuum cleaner running next to me. So you've obviously built a quiet machine. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to sit it next to you and podcast.
Right. Now, the sacrifice is that it's not the most powerful machine on the planet.
Right.
So, but
that's okay if it runs what you need. That's fine, right?
Yep. And it'll last another couple of years, and then I will, you know, replace it with something that has a little bit more power and go from there.
Maybe a little more fans, and then you'll have to move it, and then it'll be in the living room, and your wife will kill you. Then you won't be able to podcast anymore.
No, it'll never leave my office. If I keep the office just unkempt enough that it bothers her, she doesn't come down to visit.
And that's a plus?
No, it means that I can put my stuff where I want in the way that I like it, and
she won't come down and clean it.
She won't come in and clean my room, which is great.
She won't reorganize for you.
Yep. She's got the whole rest of the house. She can do whatever she wants with.
Yeah, this is literally the only room that I can put something down and it'll still be there when I come back. So anyway, we've chatted quite a bit about Colo versus home versus cloud. I don't know, anybody who's still watching, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into chat and we'll try to answer them. I do say that there are times that I miss having the machines in my basement where I can just go tinker. But my plan is to finally finish that home lab, and then whenever I want to tinker on something, I can, especially now that I'm not doing it all day, too, right? Now It will literally be a hobby.
Yep, he moved all his stuff into the cloud to get rid of all that stuff in the basement so he could build a lab.
Yeah, but I mean, this'll be truly a lab. I mean, it'll be like a place to tinker on things. It'll be like, I want to build OpenStack today. I'm going to build some OpenStack, or, you know, whatever. I want to try to build an OpenShift cluster. spin that up and get bored with it and turn it off. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I mean, we'll see.
Go play with CoreOS and let me know how that works out.
Yeah, I do have. I do still have a Plex server running in my basement. That's on a standalone machine. If I get a lab that's actually built and put together, then I may move that into that, which will be one actual service I'll have to worry about that's still running. But the rest of them, everything else has been moved to DigitalOcean. Everything else that I care about, or moved off to like providers. Like my mail is now on a provider and stuff like that.
Do yourself a favor. Put Plex in a container.
It is. It's in a container.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. Sorry. I have Plex and a Minecraft server in a container. Each of them in containers on that one machine. It's actually you probably remember my old desktop, the old Precision desktop. That's what it's running in.
I haven't run a Minecraft server in forever.
Yeah, well, your son outgrew it.
Yeah, but I may want to play.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested.
It's fun. My kids enjoy it. Well, I should say my older daughter. My younger daughter's not quite. She plays Minecraft a bit, but she doesn't really get it yet. She's only 5. So.
All right. Okay, we've beaten that horse to death.
Yeah, I think we have. So now I need to find the transition music. Here it is.
It's the button. That one over there.
It's the
push
purple.
That one.
It's the purple button.
Push the purple button.
I'm already mostly out of beer, and I'm regretting not bringing a second bottle back here.
I'm almost done with my my rye.
Yeah, it's 11%. I thought a second bottle would be a bad idea. I brought, for those of you who remember this from the earlier podcasts, I brought the pewter mug back out.
Ah, pewter mug.
So it can slowly give me lead poisoning. In the back of my head, that's why I stopped using it, because pewter is lead, right? Pewter's based on lead.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's.
Hang on. What is? No, it's a gray alloy of tin with copper and antimony.
Oh, good. So I'll get.
It used to be tin and lead.
Oh,
but it's
okay.
Tin and copper now.
So if it's old enough, it could have lead in it, but I don't. It's not that old.
You might die, but we're not really sure.
The beer tastes fine out of it, so we're good. So, right, I have show notes here that tell us what to do next. Announcements. We don't really have any. Oh, Whopper Summit. There's an announcement. All right, so first we'll go through our Patreon update. The usual patrons are still in effect. We've got our usual list here, 22532, who's our longest running patron. Thank you very much for all of your patronage since literally the beginning of the podcast. Andy, who's a fellow Red Hatter. Charles, who you may remember used to co-host and has excuses every time we want to do the show now.
Yeah, he went out and got sick just because we're having a show tonight.
He did. A sinus infection? I mean, come on. Who gets sinus infections?
I don't know.
Like everybody, I guess.
Sinuses I didn't even think that's a thing.
That's not a thing.
No.
Dementor, who you might remember as our guest from last time, we called him DM, but Dementor is his full-on whatever. He's Dementor.
Handle.
Yeah, handle. That's the word I'm looking for. Jay, who I think is you. John, Julius, and Uncle Mark, who's also a Red Hatter. Some of these other folks may be Red Hatters as well. I don't know. These are the ones I remember. And we get a monthly payout from Patreon of $48.12, which is literally like just enough to cover my DigitalOcean bill, which is where IronSysAdmin.com runs, and the Libsyn hosting where all the episodes live. So that's awesome, and we like it. Obviously, more would be better if we can get a little bit of extra like positive equity out of the podcast. Then that's cool.
We're not rich yet, okay? So
we're not rich yet. Why are we not? Listen, I haven't been able to quit my job and podcast full time yet.
All I hear about all these podcast people that go out and they make millions and like they're celebrities and like we've been doing this for how many years have we been doing this now? And we're not rich yet.
What podcast people do you know that are rich and millionaires?
There's a lot of podcasts that people have made quite a lot of money on. This
can
whole
think of-
podcast networks and yeah.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's it. We need to get into a podcast network.
Yes, the Iron Sysadmin, the Iron podcast
We could self-host a podcast network.
We'll call it Iron Casting.
Ironcast Network.
Yes. Help us fund the Ironcast Network so we can.
Yes, right. So that's Patreon. You got ShmooCon, huh?
ShmooCon is next weekend.
I hear you're doing LobbyCon this year. Or did you get a ticket? Yeah, you didn't get a ticket.
Unless I get a ticket, in which case I'll be ShmooConing. I of course am going to do the hacker thing. I'm going to LobbyCon and see if I can socially engineer my way into the couple of talks I have interest in.
Good call.
I already have a line on several tickets, so so we're gonna give that a shot. Yeah, so that should be fun.
Do people resell those at face value, or is there a rule that says they have to, or do people upsell those?
So much like DerbyCon, the general rule is that unless the profit is going to a good cause, meaning not your pocket,
right,
then tickets should be sold at face value or less.
What if the good cause is my children's education fund?
You are not a nonprofit or a charity, so no.
No, it doesn't work. Okay.
They don't seem to like. I think that basically they have the notice there that they reserve judgment. Blah 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 blah. Don't do this. Whatever. I don't know that it's become an issue. I don't know that it was an issue with DerbyCon either. So I don't know.
Yeah, no. I remember one or two cases where people were slapped down for trying to upsell DerbyCon tickets, but I don't know that it was ever a big problem.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll get there and there'll be ShmooCon scalpers standing out front.
Totally.
That would be interesting. So,
Might be.
No, there's at least one person I know of who's going to be giving out LobbyCon upgrades. And
LobbyCon upgrades, huh?
Yep. And I have a couple other people who don't use they're either leaving early or won't be using their badges for one reason or another on certain days. So I'm not overly worried about it. I have plenty of things to do. And I'm told that LobbyCon there is absolutely amazing anyway. So
it sounds like there's a decent economy around hanging out at ShmooCon and trying to do interesting things.
Yeah, I mean there was at DerbyCon too. So
yeah, definitely. I knew a number of folks who would show up at DerbyCon and just hang out at the Hyatt and have a great time. So
you can come LobbyCon at B-Sides Delaware too. I mean, it's free to get in if you want to.
Yeah, but you could hang out in the lobby if you'd want to. Yeah. Instead.
So,
all right.
So that's next weekend, and then in March, the dates escape me. I'll look at the thing. March 27th to the 29th is Whopper Summit, which is the more of the hardware side of things. And
yeah,
if you go to the where is it? It's somebody posted. I think Whopper Summit's Twitter posted it. They've got some crazy cool people coming to speak this year.
That's pretty awesome.
And this year's badge looks amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on it. So it's definitely worth looking into to go. And it's in Philly. It's the end of March. It is a fun time. And
DEF CON 610 is coming up too, huh?
What is that? 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm just filling it in the notes right now because I forgot all about it.
Yeah,
February 5th.
First Wednesday. Yep, first
February
Wednesday of the month.
Should be the DEF CON 610 meetup. I wonder if they're going to drag the ATM out of the attic again. Because I missed that meetup and I really regretted it.
Yeah, so have I.
So if anyone's unaware, DEF CON 610 meets pretty regularly. I shouldn't say roughly. They're a lot more reliable than Iron Sysadmin. We meet every Wednesday, or not every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of every month, with the exception of January this year because it was New Year's Day, I think. So we moved it to the week after.
I
But
don't know why.
But generally speaking, first Wednesday of every month at Two Rivers Brewing in Easton, Pennsylvania, you can hang out with a bunch of hackers. We had a record turnout in January. There must have been 45 people there.
Wow. That number keeps getting bigger every time somebody tells a story.
There must have been 48 people there.
No,
there must have been 53 people there. No,
it was between 30 and 40.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a few people. The biggest turnout I've ever seen for one of our meetups, and that's pretty cool. I just hope we don't outgrow Two Rivers, because they are awesome hosts, and I don't want to leave there. So good food and good beer, and we have they let us the meetup, the group managed to come into an ATM machine,
like full size ATM.
Like an actual ATM, one of those little stand-up ATMs you see like in gas stations and stuff that are all self-contained. They're not like built into a wall. They do weigh a lot, I'm sure. And Two Rivers was kind enough to, I don't know if allow is the right word, but not say anything when we put it in their attic.
Yes.
And periodically we bring it down for a meetup, and we've been hacking away at it. Or I shouldn't say we, because I missed that meetup, but hopefully it happens again, and I can get my hands on that thing. Apparently they made quite a bit of progress on getting the thing opened up and fiddling around with it, but I guess the touch screen doesn't work.
Oh, I'm sure we'll fix that.
And because the touchscreen doesn't work, they couldn't get administrative access to the thing. They found whatever the default password was for administrative access to this ATM, but they couldn't enter it because the touchscreen didn't work, or the keypad didn't work. I forget what it was.
Yeah, so we'll fix that. No problem.
The next thing is to try to figure that out. And once that's figured out and we get the pad to work, we can actually try to hack the thing, which will be pretty cool.
I can't wait till we get our custom firmware on it. We put it outside of Two Rivers.
I mean, totally. I think we need to get like DEFCON 610 bucks and put it in the cash tray and actually have it spit out money. That would be awesome.
Oh boy.
I mean, all you would really need is paper the size of actual dollars, right? And then you can put whatever you want on it, and then you could have it spit out those, I would think.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. So I hope that happens. I really hope that happens.
So I'm curious what, if any, conferences, meetups, trainings, etc., that our listeners go to. So post that somewhere and then tell us where it is.
Also, if you're in the New York area, I mentioned that I was at the Red Hat Users Group last night. We meet monthly, and that's literally at the Red Hat office. I guess it's in Manhattan. It's near the World Trade Center, right? So I don't know New York all that well.
That's the Red Hat Users Group. That's the rug, right?
Yep, the rug. Rug.
By World Trade. Where? What? Do you know what street? What building?
I could get you the address. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Because I used to work down there, so.
Yeah, no. So you'll probably recognize there's a landmark in front of the building. It's a red cube.
Oh, okay.
We're in that building.
Okay.
So I don't know what building it is. Like I said, I don't know New York that well. I'm not a city person, as you know.
Well, maybe I will saunter on down with you next month.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're in or near New York, what we'll do. I don't know if I'll be there next month, but some of us will go to New York and just work in the Red Hat office for that day. And then we'll stay for the rug, and usually we get beer and food, and people get to drink and have fun learning about something Red Hat related, and then we just have a generally good time.
Yeah, and then that's 3 hours to get home.
Well, right. It is listed on Meetup the same way that DEFCON 610 is. So if you go look for the Red Hat Users Group in New York, it's like NY Rug or something. I forget the name of it. If I can find the link for it, I will post it in the show notes, or maybe we'll share it next time around. But yeah, it's a fun time. And I think that's all the announcements. Unless you have something else to add.
No. Oh, good.
Just adding the rug to the notes here. Maybe I'll ping Mark, see if he can get me the link.
Yeah, Meetup's site is sucky.
Yeah, I had trouble finding it, to believe it or not. All right, I have pinged him on Slack. We will see if he gets back to us before the end of the show.
Still can't find it. All right, give up. Okay.
Yeah, I had trouble finding it.
Transition. Press the.
No, we actually have reviews and feedback.
What?
Weird, right?
Yes.
So Dementor got some feedback from somebody within the PowerShell on Linux community, and they said thanks to Dementor for being a positive spokesman for this open source community on the IronSysAdmin.com, they say, but of course they mean the Iron Sysadmin podcast. You expressed a love for all things open source, while at the same time encouraging PowerShell on Linux. I really appreciate your attitude and positive voice. So obviously that's feedback for him, but it was because he was on the show, and that's pretty cool.
Right, we're going to take credit for it.
We're going to take credit for it, yeah. And also we got a comment on the YouTube upload for that episode from a YouTube user named Mark K. Great episode, interesting stuff about PowerShell, and he says hass.io is awesome. I don't remember talking about that. I don't know if he's just trying to call out hass.io.
No, hass.io is the automation.
Ah, okay. So we did chat about that. Good.
Yeah, Google even turned it into a link.
It did indeed. It did indeed.
What did you do?
What did I?
It goes to YouTube.
I don't know. I didn't do anything. It does go to YouTube. We're going to just remove that link.
Yeah,
no more link.
Okay, between that and the absolute, I don't know, the cesspool of advertising you sent me down before.
That wasn't my fault. My ad blocker saved me from it. It's only because you didn't have an ad blocker.
Right. So before, we might as well put this out there. The two of us have ad blockers in our browsers. I had started a pristine browser to try to fix other stuff and discovered this. If we put a link out there and you end up in some cesspool of where did I end up? Oh, I ended up in some adult site.
You ended up at some hentai site,
we apologize in advance.
Yeah, right.
I was thoroughly confused.
We protect our browsers, so we may not know that it happens.
Yeah, some mashup. Is that what it was?
It was Mash Viral or something.
Yeah, some site like that.
And it was the first news article we covered. There was a different link that we've switched to ZDNet, and we'll cover that in a minute. But
I ended up I had opened up all the tabs, and I'm going through, and I'm like, all right, I got to go through and read the news. And the first thing I click on, it's some crazy sex thing, and I'm like,
I want to say,
where'd this link come from?
I want to say, so what I do is between shows, in the 2 weeks between shows, when I run across news articles that I think would be good for the show, I save them in Pocket. I don't know if you use Pocket or not. I want to say that when I was logged into Pocket earlier today, pulling news articles back out to put into the show notes, Pocket recommended to me that link, the one about the RHEL 8.2 beta. The one that I originally had in the show notes, which is kind of scary. When it came from Pocket, I thought, oh, well, Pocket is run by Mozilla. It's probably safe. It wasn't.
It had redirected. So you know how if you open a link and it redirects you to a new site, when you hit back, you end up on the redirect?
Yeah.
It had redirected me well over 100 times. So I was 100 deep before I ended up on whatever crazy site I was on.
Yeah, so
I was trying to figure out how I got there, and I kept backing up and backing up and backing up, and then I found the page, opened it again, and ended up on a sports betting site. So
by sheer luck, because Jason had trouble with audio in StreamYard, which is what we're using to stream this today, in Firefox, and tried to open it in a clean profile with no add-ons enabled, we found this. Otherwise, it would have been in the show notes.
Yeah.
And we're sorry if that ever happens.
Yeah, get used. What is the? I can't even remember the name of the plugin is for
I use uBlock Origin. I don't know which one you use, but uBlock has been good for me.
Get you a copy of uBlock Origin, install that, and you won't see this crap.
Yeah.
So anyway,
all right. So the only thing I had for chat, which I wanted to cover, only because it's going to lead to an upcoming thing that I want to talk about quick. Is I had another article published on Enable Sysadmin about basically my journey from when I was a punk high schooler who was interested in Linux to like tech support to systems administration to Red Hat, right? While I was writing the article, I took this picture of my Red Hat 5.0 disks, which are the ones that I bought in 1998 that really started all of this, along with my Red Hat Fedora, right? And I thought the picture was just really cool because it showed the whole journey, right? At least to anyone who knows what they're looking at. And it gave me this crazy idea because I had dug out these disks. I have decided that sometime soon, maybe even this weekend, I'm going to live stream an attempt to install Red Hat 5.0 from 1997, December of 1997, in a VM. And I'm going to live stream it on this channel, on the Iron Sysadmin channel. So if you want to see me do that, let me know, because there's a couple people that say, like, yeah, I want to see this happen. I'm going to give myself a task, like try to run a web server on it or something. So it's not just like install it and call it done. It's going to be like install it and try to remember how to configure Apache or something. So that's a thing that's going to happen. And you should watch Iron Sysadmin's YouTube channel for when it's going to go live. Watch our Twitter feed for an announcement as to when it's going to happen if you'd like to know about it beforehand. So I think it's going to be a fun time, and I'm going to try to live stream it, and I think it'll be cool. Slackware, is that your first one?
That was the first distro I ever had. Was
Yeah.
Linux Slackware 3.
So unfortunately, I don't have the
apparently
picture on this
1995.
laptop. I don't have the picture on this laptop, or I would try to share it. But yeah, it's literally like on this futon behind me, I laid down a blanket and I put my Fedora behind the discs, and I thought it came out to be a pretty cool picture. But the link to the article is in there. The picture's in the article. So if you want to go see it, go check it out.
Yeah, October 1995 this came out, apparently.
Wow.
It's so big, it's on 2 CDs.
Yeah.
2!
Red Hat 5.0 was on 2 CDs. However, I ripped them to ISOs today in preparation for this whole craziness, and they're only like 330 meg each, which is like, why? Why did they not just put it on one disc?
Because CD-ROMs are smaller back then.
They were 640. Well, I guess 330 and 330 is more than 640, so now I see why. They must have just cut it in half and put it on the 2 discs. I don't know. Anyway, it's also got an applications disk, which I'm going to have to look at and see what kind of ancient applications are on that. All right. I think that's it, unless you had anything you wanted to chat about. Should we move on into the news? You've been begging to hit the button. All right, we're going to go.
I keep forgetting where we push the button.
Do you remember the color of the button? Because I said it before.
It's purple. Purple
It's
button.
purple. All right, so our first item of news for tonight, which will not take you to an adult anime site or a trading site or any kind of malware, because we switched the link.
It does have ads all over the place on it.
Well, it's from ZDNet. Of course, it's covered in ads. It's from ZDNet, and Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.2 beta is on its way, or actually it is released to folks who are able to get a hold of Red Hat betas. I don't know exactly who it's available to. It may be available to any Red Hat subscriber. I'm not certain. I don't know if the article goes into this.
I'm trying to remember. The betas used to be available to any of the subscribers.
Right. So I think on an already released version of Linux, an already released version of RHEL, the my phone is now making noise. The hang on. Let me silence this. We must have ended the hour and a half or 2 hours that I have set in my calendar for shut up and let me podcast. Anyway, I believe on a new release, like, so when RHEL 7 was released, but RHEL 8 was still in beta, you had to apply to be in the beta program. It wasn't just released to all subscribers until it was in public beta. With betas within the current stream, it could be that they're released, to any subscriber. I don't know.
According to this, it says, want to check it out? You can get early access via your subscription through the Red Hat customer portal, or sign up for a free Red Hat developer subscription. You'll be glad you did.
Holy crap.
There you go.
ZDNet is mentioning Christian Labish. He's one of the Red Hat accelerators.
You're just jealous it wasn't you.
I didn't realize that. I'm going to have to go ping him in the Red Hat accelerators now.
Let's see. So RHEL 8.2 has PCP in it. And collection agents for Microsoft SQL Server. And the eBPF stuff. So have you looked at any of that? The eBPF stuff? It's pretty slick.
That's the Berkeley packet filter?
Yeah.
That lets you like interrupt kernel processes and whatnot?
Yep.
Yeah. I literally just found out about it last night at the rug. There was a guy, an actual Red Hat SA was there talking about the RHEL 8.2 stuff, and he mentioned it. It sounds neat. It's like a good debugging tool or a good. What did he say? There was someone who was using something like it for. I don't remember the use case now. Well, at any rate, it does sound neat. There's also a RHEL 6 to 8 upgrade tool now, which is kind of insane.
Upgrade tool.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean,
Red Hat is very proud of the fact, and I'm going to try not to sound like I'm like making fun of this, but I don't think it's a great idea. I understand the use case. Red Hat is very proud of the fact that LEAP, LEAPP, which is an upgrade tool to go from RHEL 7 to RHEL 8, is a thing now with RHEL 8, right? They want people to be able to do in-place upgrades, and it has a snapshot capability in it that if the upgrade goes completely horrible, you can revert to the snapshot and roll back, which is cool, right? That is cool. Don't get me wrong. That's really, really neat. I have told everybody that I can get to listen to me at Red Hat that this is not a use case that most people want. Because, at least in my opinion, right, upgrading in place is just never a good idea. Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I used to do it all the time, but
I mean, like enterprise class production servers. Would you do this?
I don't run enterprise class production servers the way I used to. So I would actually, like, at this point we're mostly containerized. So I don't even bother upgrading anymore. I just throw it away and build a new one.
Right. So the world now is moving toward golden images and replaceable servers and cattle, not pets, right?
Right.
So why would I need to be able to do an in-place upgrade? Now, I understand there are sectors, there are businesses that run like these crazy monolith applications and they're scared to upgrade. And I guess this is meant for those folks, right? Because migrating those monoliths is difficult. So maybe that's the use case. In my experience, in-place upgrades generally do nothing but carry along a bunch of cruft and give you a poorly configured and poorly optimized server on the other end. I'm not saying that I've tried Leap and that it's a bad product. I'm saying that I disagree with the concept. I think there's going to have to be a point where I give it a try and see how it really works. Maybe it's awesome. I don't know. I don't like the concept. And that's me speaking, not Red Hat me. That's me, just Nate. That's Nate saying that the concept of in-place upgrades seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends. For an enterprise OS, probably a bad idea. But I mean, there are instances where it's very hard to do to be able to migrate it off and build a new box. And so, there may be a use case for it out there somewhere.
Yeah. To me, major version upgrades are a chance to clean up. They're a chance to flatten the world and rebuild it from scratch. Because generally that gives you a better, cleaner platform when you're done. Because chances are, like between RHEL releases, there's what, like 4 years, 6 years, depends on the release, right? I think it's been
Right.
4 years since RHEL 7 came out. In that 4 years, you've probably learned things. You've probably changed the way you do things. You've probably changed your standards. The security industry has moved ahead. When you build a RHEL 8 box, you're going to build it differently than you built that RHEL 7 box.
Right.
So build it to the current standards, migrate your application. The application is better for it, right? That's just my opinion. And I thought this news article was going to go quickly.
Yeah, you did. So let's move on to the next one.
So, by the way, just one more thing. RHEL 6, end of life in November. So if you're running any RHEL 6, you need to move. At least to 7, but I recommend moving to 8, especially with the RHEL 6 to 8 upgrade tool in RHEL 8.2.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
While
Into
you're upgrading things,
other interesting releases. This one is something that Jason's been waiting for a long time.
yeah, Fedora CoreOS is finally out of preview and is available for general use. So it's time for me to learn something new.
Indeed. So CoreOS.
I had
ahead.
been using Fedora Atomic Host, which I thought was brilliant and loved it.
So of course it's
installed
gone now?
it, and they immediately killed it as soon as I installed it. So,
Yeah, I don't know what the story was with Atomic and why it went away.
well, because Red Hat bought CoreOS. So I'm going to go ahead and
Right, but
apologize
why?
in advance
Is the-
when I install this and it gets canceled.
I wonder if it had to do with the Docker thing, because Atomic was very Docker.
Yeah, well, so is CoreOS. It's container Linux.
Yeah, but Red Hat's moving away from Docker to Podman. So
Right,
maybe
but
they couldn't do...
Well, no, it can do Podman. I actually have Podman on my Atomic Host.
Okay,
So it's just a container Linux.
yeah.
They picked up CoreOS. CoreOS is more immutable than Atomic was, arguably.
Okay.
Which also means that there's a steeper learning curve, and I'm probably gonna bang my head on my desk a lot trying to get moved over to this.
Yeah. I
But
didn't
the security
do
on it is
much.
higher.
I didn't do much with Atomic, so maybe that was a good thing. Now I just have to learn Core.
I like Atomic, but it is what it is.
Well, maybe you'll like CoreOS more with time. I don't know. I found I did poke at Atomic a little bit, and I found it was very limiting in the things that you could do. But that's probably just because I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing things wrong. It's intentionally limiting.
Yeah, it's intentionally limiting.
It's meant to be more like an appliance,
right?
Than a host OS. It's an
if you
appliance that
think
runs
Atomic-
containers.
If you think Atomic was limiting,
Core is worse, I'm sure.
Core is worse. Like
Yeah.
Core is, and don't quote me on this, but from what I've seen and from what I've heard, CoreOS is basically a kernel. And if you want to run SSH, you have to install, you have to get the SSH module or container or whatever. Like there's no shell. There's no.
That's interesting.
These things don't exist. You install the OS, and then when you start it, it boots and reads a YAML file to configure itself.
Interesting.
And in most cases, you're running the CoreOS off of a USB stick.
Yeah. I've done at least that much with CoreOS. I was looking at running OpenShift. And OpenShift is now, they recommend installing on CoreOS because, Red Hat CoreOS. And yeah, I had to go down the road of okay, now you need to write a configuration file and put it on an HTTP server so we can pull it in while we boot. I'm like, wait, what? I don't configure? No, you just put the config here and it pulls it in and on the fly reads it and configures the operating system, which is kind of cool when you think about it, unless somebody compromises where your XML files live.
Yeah. So, I mean, my plan is to upgrade to CoreOS. Podman is fine since I'm not in a cluster. I would like to do some Kubernetes stuff, so I'd like to, but I don't know how viable it is to run a single node Kubernetes setup. I know Minikube exists, but
yeah,
most people don't recommend that. So
you really need more than, I think it's a minimum of 3 they want.
Yeah,
Is it
and I
3,
get
or
it.
is
I
it?
understand that I don't gain blah 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 blah. The purpose
And
of running Kubernetes on a single server is experience, not that I'm expecting to
yeah,
get
yeah, no. And
boost out of it.
with Shift, it's even worse. It's not just Kubernetes. You know, the requirements of Kubernetes. There's like control nodes and like all kinds of stuff you need to think of on top of Kubernetes. I think it's like 5 servers or something is the minimum for Shift, for OpenShift, which is kind of crazy. But you know, it comes with that nice web UI. So,
All right, and let's see. In positive news, your company's making money now. Well,
oh right, yeah,
your parent company.
This came out like just yesterday, I think. Yeah, that's what the article says anyway. So apparently IBM buying Red Hat was a good move for IBM because they're making money again. I guess after 5 quarters of decline, they moved up. What was it, like 0.1%? Is that what I think I read that somewhere in either this article or the other one. Their quarter closed this quarter like 0.1% positive, or higher than it did last time. Right. So it's an upward trend, which is not trend, but it's an upward point, which is a good thing. So yeah, there's an article here from Seeking Alpha, and there's another one in the notes from
The Motley Fool.
The Motley Fool. Yes, I was trying to find it in the notes here from the Motley Fool about how buying Red Hat and apparently mainframes are a thing that IBM does. Who knew? Have increased IBM's profitability. I
love my AS400, and you can tear it out of my cold dead hands.
Yeah, right. Good old AS400. Oh, there's like graphs and everything in this. Financials are a thing that I vaguely understand. More is better, less is worse.
If you look at the graph, if you look at the graph and the little line is going up, that's good.
Yes, right. So, I mean, this line looks like very, very steady and then horrible for a while, then it jumps. So that must be a good thing, right?
I guess. I don't know. All right. Let's talk about cancer.
From IBM to cancer.
Yes. Wait. I mean, some people equate those. Anyway.
No, isn't open source a cancer? Isn't that what Ballmer said?
Yes, actually.
Yes, yes, it is.
So I just saw, I watched a piece on this today. Didn't go into super detail, but as it turns out, the cure for cancer, cure in quotes, of course, may have been inside our bodies the entire time. Yeah, this is actually really cool, and that's why I included it. Sometimes we talk about science and medical stuff, so our viewers will hopefully bear with us for a moment here. Cancer sucks. It flat out sucks, and it's touched probably everybody in the world at this point in some way. Either you know someone who's died of cancer or has had cancer, or you yourself have been affected by cancer. It just flat out sucks, and it's a really hard thing to get rid of without poisoning ourselves, which is essentially what chemotherapy is. It's poison. Right. You're putting poison in your body to kill off cancer cells and hope that you kill the cancer cells faster than you kill your own good cells, right? Right. This research is apparently trying to turn T cells, which are what make up our immune system, into cancer-fighting agents, which is pretty cool. So basically, the way I understand it, and correct me if you understand this differently, because I'm not a doctor, and I know neither are you, but you have a lot more exposure to this from that podcast you listen to. Apparently, what these researchers are doing is they found a way to tell T cells basically how to identify and attack cancer cells. Yeah. Did I get that right? Is that like a high-level thing? Yeah, kind of. It's like there is a T cell that is capable of killing cancer cells, and they've figured out how to basically collect those and then use them to inject into cancer patients and kill the cancer cells. And okay. So it's like supplementing. It's like putting in reserve troops. Right. So, and the key to this whole thing is because we have cancer drugs. We have stuff that is not chemo, that are cancer drugs that go after specific types of cancer. Yeah. But they're incredibly expensive, and it only covers a couple of different cancers. Right. These things are almost universal. Yeah. Yeah, they list a number of different types of cancer these things attack.
Was it toward the beginning here? I'm trying to find it. I read it before.
Yeah. So this is a T cell receptor that interacts with a molecule called MR1, which is basically in everything. And it finds the MR1 in cancer cells and then just kills it. Basically, it pops the cancer cell, if you will. I mean, it causes there's a term for it, I can't remember, but it tells the cancer cell that it needs to commit suicide, and so it does.
Interesting.
This is a very common thing that happens inside your body every day. So there's a
right. It's how
signal, right?
It's how you fight off infection and whatnot, right?
No, it's even normal cells. Like there's a signal that goes to cells for a variety of different reasons that tells the cell you need to commit suicide now, and it just
right
basically explodes.
Because you don't want too many cells. All right, so here's the list I was looking for. It says the Cardiff team discovered the T cell and its receptor that could find and kill a wide range of cancerous cells in the lab, including lung, skin, blood, colon, breast, bone, prostate, ovarian, kidney, and cervical cancer cells. That covers a lot.
Right.
I mean, a lot. That's like most, I would say. So that's kind of cool, and I hope it works out because cancer sucks.
Yes, cancer does suck.
Flat out sucks.
So there's hope moving forward.
Yeah. I don't want to sound too cynical, but I hope that there's a lot of people who believe that cancer research is stalled intentionally because chemotherapy is a thing that drug companies can make money on. I'm not saying that I support that I believe this is the case. All I'm saying is I hope they're wrong.
They're probably right on some level because I mean, if a company, and I don't know if they are or not, but it's the only one that comes to mind. So, like, say Merck, has a cancer drug, some chemotherapy or whatever, and it's working. Why should they spend money trying to find a new solution? Whereas,
that's the thing, though. You could argue that it's not working.
Well,
because there are entirely too many people that go through chemotherapy and still die of cancer.
Right. This research is coming out of academia. It's not coming from a big company.
Sure.
So.
But what academia lacks in a lot of cases is funding to make it a big thing.
Right.
Like they may be like, hey, look at this really cool thing that I did. And then the drug companies, who ultimately are the people who are going to have to produce this kind of thing, could be like, nah, we're fine. We have chemo.
Or worse, they buy it up and don't use it.
Right.
So
again, I don't want to sound too cynical, but I really hope that this turns into something. I really do. Because, I mean, isn't this like the #1 killer of people in the U.S. or in the world? Cancer? Or is it still heart disease? It used to be heart disease.
It's still heart disease.
Yeah.
Well, in the U.S.
In the U.S.
It says U.S. and worldwide as of July of 2019. But cancer is number 2.
There you go. So if we can knock out number 2, that's cool. I think that's cool. That's a step forward.
Yep.
Definitely. Then we'll have people jumping up and down about how this is a vaccine that causes autism. You can't do this.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Or something
Cancer
else.
causes autism.
Cancer causes death, which is kind of worse than autism, I would say. I don't want to generalize, but generally being alive sounds better than dead. All right, we're going to move on from that dark subject to The Verge. And this is... I literally heard about this on the news this morning. I don't know how long this article is, or how long this news is, like when it broke. This is dated January 22nd.
Yeah, so it's been going since 2018.
Right, but I mean, like this recent revelation. And okay, so
it was this morning.
Was it this morning? Because this is dated the 22nd.
It might have been yesterday morning. Then it was either this morning or yesterday morning.
So the Verge, UN calls for immediate investigation into Saudi role in Jeff Bezos's hack. So apparently in 2018. So Jeff Bezos, or is it him specifically, or is it Amazon that owns the Washington Post? Right, the Washington Post.
Yeah, I think it's Bezos himself.
I don't want to get this stuff wrong because the 11% is starting to hit me.
Yeah. Bezos owns both Amazon and the Washington Post, or
Yes,
has a controlling share of Amazon, and I believe outright owns the Washington Post.
Okay, so the Washington Post has been a little critical of what is it? Iran? No, Saudi.
No, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, and there's been some backlash over that. There's other articles that talk about this, not covered tonight. But apparently, there is now a suspicion that in 2018, Jeff Bezos his phone was hit by spyware that apparently came from a, what was it, Telegram message? I thought it was Telegram was the medium. I'm trying to find it here. WhatsApp. Similar. From a WhatsApp message that apparently came from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Now, did Jeff Bezos know it came from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? I don't know. But, yeah, apparently his phone was infected with spyware of some sort.
Right. So this whole thing started, Washington Post is being very critical of Saudi Arabia. Then allegedly they hacked into Bezos's phone, tried to blackmail him into basically backing off from the coverage that the Washington Post was giving him. Bezos told them to, go to hell.
Yeah, piss off, I'm rich.
So then they killed Khashoggi, the journalist.
Oh, right. Forgot that.
And
so
then,
was Khashoggi associated with the Washington Post?
I think he was a journalist for the Washington Post, yeah.
I didn't know that piece.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So then suddenly private messages and photos from Bezos were leaked and all sorts of stuff happened since then. And Bezos, being a billionaire, said, I'm going to hire myself a private army of hackers to figure out what happened. And they have been digging into this ever since, and they have determined that it came from Saudi Arabia. My understanding of this is that the evidence is damning on this, and it's pretty much it came from Saudi Arabia. So at this point, with all the reports and everything that has come out of it, the UN has enough information now that they've said, yeah, we should investigate this.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is attacking an individual, albeit a very rich and powerful individual.
Yeah.
In the U.S. Pretty crazy stuff. So, personally, I don't have any problem with Saudi Arabia. You should not attack me. Please don't. Please don't attack me. I don't have the resources. You wouldn't care what you found on my phone. Pictures of my cat, dogs, kids. Otherwise, it's really kind of boring. So don't.
I mean, attack me all you want. I happen to think that, there's some crazy shit going on in Saudi Arabia that shouldn't be. And they're very backwards with human abuses and everything else. So
if IronSysadmin.com, I'm going to say that IronSysadmin.com is not associated with Jason at all. No, I mean, I agree with you, but what can we do? What can you and I or the Iron Sysadmin podcast do? If you guys want to throw a whole bunch of money into Patreon, we'll donate it to whatever we can do to help Saudi Arabia. How's that?
Okay.
I have no way of knowing
it's not going to help us any. So
yeah, I don't know how I would do that. But if all of a sudden piles of money show up in Patreon, I'll figure it out.
All right.
Anyway.
All right. Talking about figuring things out, guess what Microsoft did?
Yeah, this is also from The Verge, by the way. Funny story. I was aware of the Jeff Bezos thing, and then I'm looking around for news for the show tonight, and I find this thing on The Verge, and they mentioned the other article about Jeff Bezos, and I'm like, we should talk about that too, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
So anyway, continue.
I'm gonna poke at Microsoft because this is unless
Go
I
right ahead.
read this article, this is
fun.
The most ridiculous thing. So Microsoft has this new Android phone that they come out with, which folds, and by folds I mean it has a hinge and two separate screens.
Yes, it's not
nonsense with plastic screens.
Yeah, it's not like what was it, Samsung Fold? Is that what it's called? Samsung.
Yeah. So because it has two separate screens, it has, well, two screens.
Yeah.
And it's an Android phone. And apparently you can fold it so that it looks like a phone, I guess. Although this thing looks massive.
It does look
or you
look
open
large.
it up and it's like tablet sized.
It looks folded. I don't see a picture of it folded, but looking at half of the screen in the picture, it looks wider than a standard smartphone.
That half of the screen is wide, as wide as that guy's hand. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
So this article goes on about how the plan for this is surprisingly realistic, and like it's just this whole like this is so great and wonderful. And I have sort of I haven't really spent a ton of time with this.
I mean, they also talk about the like how they've released the development kit and how the development kit is so well put together and whatever. Like that's cool. That's
Microsoft's
really the
development
focus
kits
of
are
the article.
generally well put together, so that doesn't surprise me so much.
Yeah.
But the big reveal here is, are you ready for this? Like, sit down, seriously. If you're like jogging or whatever, like take a break, sit down. Apps open on a single screen. Wow. And you can't open an app on both screens at the same time. It's not possible.
In the imagery they show, or at least in these like mock-ups they had down toward the bottom, they have this mode that says extended canvas that has it appears to span two screens.
Yes, you have to. Where is it? There was a place here where it told you this, but you have to tell it to go to double screen.
Yeah.
You cannot open an app and have it automatically use both screens.
Now I'm looking. Scroll back up to the first image where it shows the thing unfolded and it's in the guy's hand.
Yeah.
How the hell do you use that keyboard?
With your right hand and your right hand only.
Exactly, or with a stylus or something. There's no way you're gonna hold it in two hands and type like most people do on a smartphone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. There's a video showing how Windows move, I guess.
That's awesome.
Neat, I guess. Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Like, I'm sure somebody will get use out of it.
We've talked about it is Samsung, right? The Samsung Galaxy Fold. Was that the other phone we were talking about?
Oh,
with the actual folding
out,
screen that's never going to release. We've talked so much about that I figured there's another folding phone on the market. We're going to have to talk about it too.
Well, there's the Razr too.
Oh, there's a Razr now?
The Motorola Razr. You don't know about the Motorola Razr? The new Motorola Razr is a folding phone.
I don't think I do.
I thought we talked about it on this podcast.
I don't know. I also saw like an independent manufacturer who was trying to make a folding phone.
As a matter of fact, down in the article more, Motorola's foldable Razr will launch on February 6th.
Holy shit! There's a guy here with Motorola Razr 2019 unboxing. Yeah, 2019. That can't be it unless it's like a pre-release. But it looks like a folding device.
So this Duo thing,
crazy.
It's like $1,500. I think I'll go buy myself a laptop.
That's the $1,500 is cheaper than the Samsung one.
Okay.
Wasn't that like $1,800?
I don't know.
Look, I mean, we said this when we talked about the Galaxy Edge. It's new technology. It's going to be expensive. It's going to promote innovation, or it's going to fail, one or the other, and then it's going to drop in price.
Yep.
Like there could be a day where all of us, like, I don't know if you remember, right? So I don't know if you know this, but I recently, and you're gonna boo this. You're gonna boo. I switched back.
Of course you did.
I'm back on an Android. This is a Pixel 4 XL. You and I had discussions, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, about how these XL phones are just too freaking large and I'll never use one. Well, here I am with one because they've become normal. This thing's enormous, right? I put it on a belt clip and it's like I have a shield on my belt.
Mine's good.
You have what do you have?
I just have an XS.
Right.
Normal. I mean, clearly it's bigger than what the phones used to be, but I can't get away from that. I have no choice.
Exactly.
But it's not the XL.
That's like what I mean.
In my head.
Like, do you remember like the tiny little Droid Incredible that I had?
Yeah.
right? And you had your iPhone 3 or 4 or whatever at the time, and they were about the same size. And we're like, these are good-sized phones. I don't want anything enormous. Well, now here we are with like fucking tablets on our lap. Sorry, freaking tablets on our
Phablets.
phablets. Anyway, mark my words. If this succeeds, if the folding phone market succeeds and it doesn't fall on its face, there will be a day 5-6 years from now where we've all got folding phones and we won't know how we lived without them.
But again, I have an iPhone XS because I tend to stay relatively up to date, right? I'm not going to get an 11.
Yeah.
I have no interest in it. I have an XS because I had an 8. Actually, I would have had a 7, but I ended up with an 8.
Yeah,
for a variety of reasons. And I needed a new phone. And I got the XS. But I have no interest in the XL. Like, I won't go out and buy an XL phone because I think they're ridiculously
Yeah,
large.
now, I mean, this is my...
When they
This is my old... Sorry,
Right,
this is my old Pixel. This is the Pixel I had before the Pixel 4. And the 4 is like... I mean, it's like enormous, right? And I have a case on it because they're freaking made of glass. I set it on my desk and it slides off.
frictionless glass.
It is. It's I have this notebook that I usually have sitting right here next to my desk. If I set it on the notebook and the notebook is not perfectly flat and I start typing or whatever, it will work its way off my desk. I had to put a case on it. There was no choice.
We will have folding phones. I know we will, right? Because when it becomes ubiquitous, when it becomes the common phone, that's what everybody ends up getting. Like, and I have, like, at that point, the kinks have been worked out and whatever. That's fine. Like, honestly, like, we've seen all of the sci-fi shows with their they fold up the newspaper, they roll up the newspaper or whatever, and they pull it out with one sheet of plastic and they just do everything on it. Like, yes, I want that. That's not the Motorola or the Samsung. Like, it's not what it is.
No,
so,
but
I have no interest.
But it will be.
It will be, and when
that's my point.
Then I'll be interested.
There will be a day when us making fun of the Samsung Galaxy Fold will turn into that piece of paper you fold up and stuff in your pocket and flop it out, and that's your phone, right?
Right.
We may not live to see it. We might. I mean, with the way things are advancing, we might.
That
could be in a
forever. So
it could. Yeah, I know. You kept telling me that you've just chosen not to die. So we'll see how that works out for you.
Dying is so inconvenient.
It is very inconvenient. It's almost as inconvenient as software as a service.
Well played. You know what else is inconvenient?
Microsoft losing publicly exposing 250 million conversations with support and customers.
Yes.
This one's from The Hill. Isn't The Hill a political page? How did this end up talking about technology?
But I believe the technical term for this is oops.
Oops. Yeah. So apparently, like December, 28th and 29th? Did I get the dates right? 30th and 31st?
28 and 29. Yeah.
Here it is. 28th, 29th. Like 250 million conversations that were recorded, not like audio recorded, but like chat sessions, from what I understand, were accidentally exposed to the world from Microsoft.
I would love to know more information about this on what exactly happened, because it's one of those, like, they were briefly exposed before the vulnerability was patched.
Yeah, I read that too, and I'm like, so from a place like The Hill, do they know what they're saying?
Well, but it was a vulnerability that they patched to fix this problem on only 5 servers. What?
250 million on 5 servers.
That's 50 million per server. Like, whatever. I mean, you could put 50 million records on a server. That's easy. But what? This sounds like somebody opened the firewall or.
Yeah, right. This
doesn't sound like a.
They say, well, they fixed the vulnerability. I think they're using the word vulnerability incorrectly here. We see vulnerability as a software glitch that has caused a unexpected behavior. And I think what they're saying is their servers were vulnerable to a thing, probably because of a misconfiguration. And by them fixing the vulnerability, it's they found that thing and fixed it. Like this isn't a software patch, although they do use words that make it sound like it's a software patch. But consider the source. The Hill is not a technology blog. It's not these aren't tech people,
I
right?
Get that.
So this could be a wording thing, or maybe it really is a software vulnerability. I don't know. But I read that and I thought that doesn't sound. I think they're using the wrong words. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Yep. So that. So the company warned that if anyone with malicious intent did gain access, the information could help them run scams on people. So this reminds me, and I'll bring this. I put this on Twitter recently. Apparently, and again, this was the end of 2019, November-ish. Computer Associates had a similar issue. Well, I guess they had a problem. So somebody on their support team was selling the data from their support system.
Oops.
To external parties. And those now this is the story according to, and I could pull up let me just Google it. It's there. So the story that's out there is that this person was selling the data to a third party, and that third party was using it for scams. However, I have a client who actually fell foul of this. They had Computer Associates antivirus or something on their computer. They had a problem with multiple charges on their credit card or something. So they called and they're like, we just need to fix this. So they opened a ticket with Computer Associates. And apparently the way that they did things at the time was you'd open the ticket with Computer Associates. They'd say, okay, cool, we've got you in the system. We'll have somebody call you back.
Okay.
So they hung up. And within minutes, somebody called back, identified themselves as from Computer Associates, asked if it was made sure that they were talking to the right person, explained to them what was in the ticketing system on what the problem was, and said, okay, we're here to help you. So, of course, this person was like, oh, okay, cool. And we started going through the help.
This must be the right people. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I can understand that.
Right. So tech support said, well, we need to see what's going on. So could you load up TeamViewer? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So they start up a TeamViewer session.
But so that's the thing, though, right? Like, that's not an unreasonable request. A lot of support personnel do that exact same thing.
Right. So
might not be TeamViewer, but
they started crawling through the system and they poked around at a couple things. And the person that was dealing with this at the time was not a super computer savvy person. And was just sort of following along, and they were doing whatever. And then they were the support people said, hey, we see the problem. We can refund this for you. All we need you to do is log into your bank account so that we can refund the money directly into your bank account.
Wow. And
this person said, huh,
that seems weird.
Now,
good call.
This was a couple. This side of the couple was not the person who dealt with the bank account and all that. So they got their other half and said, hey, can you log in and whatever? And that other half happened to be a little bit more savvy and said, that doesn't sound right.
Like, no, we're not doing that.
And called back Computer Associates and said, they got off the phone with whoever that person was, called back Computer Associates and said, what the hell? And Computer Associates said, yeah, we've had a breach.
Oops. That doesn't sound like a breach. That sounds like real time.
Yes. Well, a breach. Yes. They had according to the articles that I've seen, they're claiming that it was just third-party data that was being sold. But according to this particular, and I have no reason to not believe this person, this was real time.
That's not data exfil. That's persistence.
Yeah. That's persistence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens. So, but yeah, Microsoft lost some data, and They fixed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they lost. Like, I don't know how much of it actually got pulled down. This article is just basically saying that it was available, and now it's not anymore. So what happened to it? We don't know, but I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
Well, 240 million of those conversations were, your product sucks.
No, 240 million of those conversations were, have you tried rebooting it? Oh, that fixed it. Bye.
So speaking of
bad guys and whatever. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't read this that deeply because it really just sounds like the same thing over and over and over again. This is from Yahoo Finance. Again, I don't know why finance is talking about security.
Well, because this particular thing, phishing is huge in the finance sector.
So Proofpoint's State of the Phish report stresses the need for user training and email reporting as targeted attacks climb. Surprise. Users need to be trained to identify phish better. I don't know. This is such a difficult thing. It's such a hard thing to train users, right?
Yeah.
You get where I'm going here? Like, it's... I get user awareness training, and I get that it's important, and I get that the first line of defense is the person looking at their inbox. But I can spot a phish pretty quickly from experience, not from sitting through user awareness training.
Right.
And there are some that catch me. Like, I've never actually been literally caught, but I've had some that have been really convincing.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
I am just this level of paranoid when I receive an email that I catch them, and I haven't fallen prey to one yet. And I say yet because I don't think I'm immune, right?
No.
And I managed email and spam and phish filtering for most of my career. That's why I'm so paranoid. What possible chance does the average user have?
So if you talk to pen testers, they will tell you almost across the board, if they are targeting you and they have enough information, you will fall prey. End of story. There's no question.
Yeah.
They will get you with a phish every single time. There's no way to. We get phished at work. We go through the security awareness training and like garbage. Not to say that it's necessarily bad, but ours is bad. And then they phish us every month. And I don't know what the hell they're thinking. So the multiple problems here. One, they send out a reminder.
Reminder, you'll be phished next week.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we're starting the phishing campaign again. Make sure you don't click on anything. Oh, thanks. The phish.
That seems like an odd procedure.
The phish that they're sending are so unbelievable. Like, they're I don't understand how anybody could. And we have people that fall prey to them anyway. But I don't understand how anybody could fall prey to this stuff.
That's the point, though. People have fallen prey to it.
Right, which means that it's not working. This stuff is like, you can put right on the top of it, I'm a phish, and people click on it anyway.
Right, so one side of that argument is that means that the fact that they're catching people means that it could actually be effective, regardless of the fact that it's ridiculous. Right? If they catch those people, and those people learn something from it, maybe they're not, but if they do, just say they do, then that's a success.
Maybe. I solved it by just looking for the header that says I'm a phish, and I have a rule in my mail now that just grabs that and throws it into a into a folder. I haven't seen a phish in 6 months, so
that's nice. Good job.
But I'm not gonna waste my time with this.
Yeah.
Oh, you should be reporting these. No.
Yeah, I don't know that we go through this sort of thing at Red Hat. I haven't been there long enough to know. I can say that in the 90 days I've been there, it hasn't been a thing.
No. I think there's better ways to handle this stuff.
Yeah, we do receive phish from time to time, but I don't think that it's targeted or not targeted. I don't think that it's a pen tester. I don't think it's someone trying to phish us. for education purposes. I think it's literally people trying to fish us because we're a big fish. But yeah, they don't usually try to fish the TAMs, so I feel like I'm safe.
All right, one more article.
Yeah, good, because I'm getting tired.
This is a good one.
Right. Yeah.
Washington State apparently is looking at voting by smartphone. And I know we said, smartphone voting is stupid. But it's a thing, and there was a TED Talk about voting that I watched last week. Can I find it rapidly? I forget which country it is, but they have been voting electronic voting for years.
Yeah.
With no problems. Now, they basically blew up their whole country apparently and started from scratch, but I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting, eye-opening talk. So it's possible to do, but
so this article is from Let me drink some more and try that again. This article is from Vice. It's their motherboard column. Ignoring security experts, Washington State eyes voting by smartphone. And I think the summary at the very top, even before the picture, really summarizes it well. Security experts still widely agree that online voting can't be adequately secured or transparently audited, yet the siren song of easier voting appears irresistible. And this is the thing that I see dragging humanity down at every freaking turn. It'll be easier. Let's do it that way.
Right. Okay.
Right?
So I found the TED Talk. It's Estonia.
Okay.
And it's more than just voting. They basically have digitized like as much as they can. So
yeah.
What the one interesting thing I found in the talk, and I've heard this about other countries as well, just not electronically. They have to pay taxes every year because they live in a country.
Weird.
And the lady that was presenting said she pulls out her phone, she clicks a button, it shows her entire tax return that's already been pre-filled out for her. She flips through it and clicks OK, and she's done. She says this takes less than 2 minutes.
Are you saying that a government that already has information about our salaries and the amount of money that we've made and how much they expect that we should be paying should be able to tell us how much we owe at the end of the year?
Right. And we know that they can because the IRS can audit you.
That's crazy talk.
Well, if they didn't have that information, then whatever I put on my tax return is now the truth, and I can
exactly,
long, and I'd never get caught.
Exactly.
Anyway,
there's a meme going around social media to this effect that basically says you have to pay taxes because you live in our country. Okay, how much do I owe? You have to figure that out.
Right.
How do I figure it out? Well, you fill out this form. How much do I have to pay? Well, if you figure it out wrong, we'll let you know. So you already know what I have to pay. What happens if I submit the wrong amount? Oh, you'll go to prison.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just tell me what to pay?
So that was a bit of a tangent from the original article, but the point of the Estonia thing is that
right.
They've like the government or the digital lifestyle that they have and the way that they've set things up with privacy integrated allows them to do things like voting electronically because all the data is there to identify that person.
Right.
And it becomes very difficult to trick that. Now, Estonia's, my understanding, is a little bit smaller than the US.
Yeah.
And like I said, they sort of, I don't know the whole history of all what happened, but my understanding is that, things were pretty bad and they kind of had to rebuild from scratch. So that's not going to happen in the US anytime soon. Well, maybe. At any rate, smartphone voting is a thing that's going to happen. And I think it's going to happen relatively soon, but there's a lot of hurdles. And
I think grafting that on top of our existing voting system is where the problem lies.
Right. Well, think about I can steal your phone right now. right? Like they can clone
Yeah.
chips left, right, and sideways.
Yeah.
What is like that's the whole piece of it, is like, what is identifying you? How do we do this so that we can't clone somebody and steal their vote, or have a bunch of people voting that don't exist, or whatever.
But there's the other, and then the complete other side of the argument, which is, what if you don't have a smartphone? How do you vote?
Yes, correct. So
or what if you don't have access to one? What if you can't afford one? What if you don't have cell service? Like whatever.
Right.
Because there are, believe it or not, still people that are like that might want to vote.
Right. So.
I mean,
but apparently,
it's the same argument as it was described to me for requiring ID to vote, right? Like, there are people that don't have a driver's license, and they don't want a driver's license, or they don't have a photo ID or whatever, and getting one is a pain in the ass. So there's
people that can't get them because they can't
requiring a photo ID to vote means that you're going to have people that can't vote, and those people are generally like people that don't have a lot in life, right? Like, it just happens that those are the sort of people that may also be in some other way disadvantaged, right? And removing their votes is a big deal, because people like that they have a right to vote, and they should be able to. Now, I mean, I don't know what side of that argument I fall on. I feel like having to identify who you are to vote, similar to in a smartphone situation, is a good thing. But I also don't want people to not be able to vote because they can't get a driver's license, or because they can't get a photo ID, right? So it's a hard problem to solve. But if we're going to take our existing voting system, and simply the matter of, like, I want you to prove who you are before you can vote, is a big problem. Certainly requiring or even promoting votes via a smartphone is going to be an even bigger problem, because if you have people that can't do something as simple as get a photo ID, you're certainly going to have people that can't get their hands on a smartphone.
I
get that it's a different problem.
Right,
like, one's a financial problem and the other is a bureaucracy problem. Right?
Yeah, in most cases, yeah.
Yeah. Like, a financial problem is, my smartphone costs $800. Right. I get it. You don't have to spend $800 on a smartphone, but you can buy a cheaper smartphone that isn't. But then you buy a cheaper smartphone that could be less secure because it's running Android 6, right? Because you paid for a cheap piece of crap. Right. Or like Trooper says, Amish people voting.
Right.
What about the Amish?
The other one is, you can't get a photo ID or the required document, like an official license, official driver's license to prove who you are. And it's not necessarily that you're illegal, but there's a whole host of reasons why you can't get the required paperwork to get that document.
Yeah, no, right. And this, I didn't understand the scope of this problem until our mutual friend Rich described it to me. There's people that are, like, elderly that can't get out, or there are people that like, or wasn't it you that was saying your wife can't get her birth certificate? Yeah. Right? It's like, that's one of the ways that they might verify who you are, to get, say, a real ID, right? Right. And she needs to be really careful with that thing, because if she loses it, she might not be able to get another one, right? So, yeah, I mean, these are like legitimate edge cases that are hard to solve.
Yep. So let me know when you solve those problems, and I'll start voting on my phone, because I don't feel like leaving the house.
I'm going to tell you right now that I'm not working on those problems.
Oh, well.
I get no reason to.
Bummer. Hey, guess what?
We're all out of news.
Yeah.
That means that the show is over. But we're still right around the same time. It must have taken us less time to go through the main topic.
Yeah, I'm out of alcohol.
I am as well.
I'm sad.
I actually had to start drinking the water.
Water? You're gonna pollute your alcohol stream.
Yeah, you're right.
All right.
So, I guess that's it for tonight. Right, so if you want to watch us live, as usual, you can find us roughly the first or second and fourth Thursday of every month. unless it's like a holiday or we have things going on or it's just really busy or we're tired or like I don't know, any other reason that we might not put a show on.
We're pretty consistent though.
Yeah, I mean the holiday season is always tough for us, and we're just over that now. So we should be able to get back on our regular schedule. Christmas and whatnot always just beats up our poor podcast. And Thanksgiving always seems to fall really close to our show, especially since we record on a Thursday, which is also Thanksgiving. Who designed this holiday anyway? It just interferes with us. Anyway, as long as Jason doesn't rage quit because of my choice of streaming software, we're going to try to continue the live streams. So you can find them on Iron Sysadmin or on youtube.com/Iron Sysadmin podcast. And you'll be able to watch us live like you are tonight, which has worked out relatively well once we got past the audio problems that Jason had. It's always you. Like you've had some of the strangest technological problems.
I have no
with
idea.
being part of this show
honestly
out of any of our hosts.
Anything spectacular here.
I would say you can join our Slack workspace, but that's actually something else worth chatting about. The Slack has this like you can't just have an open invite on Slack, or at least not a permanent one. We had an open invite on Slack, and it expired. And what I can do is go make a new open invite, but apparently they last 30 days now, which is going to be a real pain in the butt, and I'm always going to forget to renew it. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm going to forget. So I'm trying to evaluate what we want to do about that. I've
automated.
I think I have seen services that do this. Like there's Slack joining services that simply solve this problem. So if anybody knows about one, let me know, and I'll look into it. That's one solution. Another solution is to move to a different chat platform. And I looked briefly at Matrix. John, the nice guy from the Admin podcast, and I were poking around at Matrix a bit because he's more familiar with it. And apparently we can set up a bridge between Matrix and Slack. So that we can transition from Slack to Matrix. The nice thing about Matrix is that it's free, and it does support public access. So I don't know. We may do that. We may not. If anybody has any feelings about one or the other, or if you have a different suggestion, let me know. Maybe I'll just stand up an old BBS, and we can all chat through that. I don't know. We will just go back to IRC. How's that sound?
Okay.
We'll do IRC. We'll do an IRC server somewhere. So I don't think that I would run my own Matrix server. I would probably just use the existing public ones and set up a community within Matrix, which looks like it has promise. But I'm open to feedback. If anybody has any suggestions or any suggestions, let me know, and we'll go from there. So yeah, that's how Slack is at the moment. But if we do reopen it to invites, it'll be at ironsysadmin.com/Slack, although right now it doesn't work. If you want to find us on the social medias, Iron Sysadmin is on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/ironsysadmin and twitter.com/ironsysadmin, and you can subscribe to us wherever you normally find podcasts. And as mentioned earlier, if you'd like to support us via Patreon or send us a boatload of money to send to Saudi Arabia, or not Saudi Arabia, but to benefit Saudi Arabia, go to patreon.com/ironsysadmin, and you can do so. Jason's looking at me like, what are you getting us into?
I'm not going to Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
No, I'm not going there either. We can benefit them by just sending money there, can't we? Isn't that how this works? Like the naked lady that's benefited all the wildfires in... What are you doing?
Buttons.
All of a sudden, you're fading into a living room scene with a piano.
It's horrible.
What was that?
It has virtual backgrounds, but it's really bad.
I guess.
Anyway.
Apparently, green screens are a brand new feature with StreamYard, so I don't expect much out of them.
Zoom's works way better. I don't need a green screen.
Zoom is much more mature, maybe. So, anyway. Oh, you put in the chat, didn't you? Keybase. We could do a Keybase group. How many of you are on Keybase? Want to do it that way?
Keybase is awesome. I love Keybase.
Keybase is cool. So anyway, we're rambling at this point. So yeah, send us money, and maybe we won't send it to Saudi Arabia. Did you catch that?
Yeah, something like that. You can't promise to send it there and then not send it there. That's wrong.
No, you're right. So, I mean, honestly, like if I don't know that we could do that. I also don't know that anyone's going to send us a boatload of money. But if it happens, we'll figure it out. All right, folks. Before I get myself into trouble, maybe I already have, we're going to call it a night. Again? What do you mean again?
I don't know. It's not fun.
All right. Good night, folks.
Not all.
So can you guess what color the outro button is?
Purple.
No. That's the
Orange,
transition
blue,
button.
Green. Yellow.
Well, so the intro button is green. The
Aqua.
transition button is purple. What color do you think the outro button is?
Fuchsia.
What color represents stop or the end?
Black.
Red. It's red, damn it, red. All right, folks, I made it this time. Good night. Have a good one.
Night.